Okay, so today's movie review is called Northside 777, starring Jimmy Stewart, and it's from 1948. And here are some behind the scenes details about the film. This film was photographed in the state of Illinois using, wherever possible, the actual locales associated with the story. This is the first Hollywood produced feature film to be shot entirely on location in Chicago. Many historical landmarks, such as the Chicago Merchandise Mart, the Holy Trinity, Polish Mission, and the Reely building, can be seen throughout the film. Alright, so those are some behind the scenes details about the film. Now let's get into my thoughts on it. The plot, I give it a 4 out of 5. I really like the story. I think it's very interesting. We're kind of figuring it out with Jimmy Stewart as it goes along. Did the guy actually murder the cop or did he not, right? I think that's a very, very interesting story. The only thing I had an issue with really was the actual, accused guy, murderer himself. I wasn't the biggest fan of his character, or I guess his actor, I should say. And to me, that kind of hurt the story a bit. And also the narration. I don't like the narrator they used. Again, just like the killing that I mentioned a couple weeks ago, the actor sounds like a broadcaster for the narration. It kind of distracts, at least for me. So that's why I give a 4 out of 5, though. I still think it's a really interesting story. All right, let's move on to the acting. So the acting, I gave it a 4 out of 5 as well. I thought it was good. James Stewart, he does amazing here. He really elevates the cast really, really high. Because everybody else, Richard Conte, he's the guy who's accused. He's just okay, not great. And not really anybody else is that great either. But James Stewart is on a whole nother level. If it didn't have him, it probably would have been even more of a B film. This is still kind of a B film, but it is on location though, so I can't imagine it was a cheap film to make. But his abilities really are what elevate the film a lot more than I think it really, I don't want to say that it deserves, because it was a good story and a good film overall. But it's definitely because of him that it brings it to a whole nother aspect and a whole nother level. So that's why I gave it a 4 out of 5. Let's move on to directing. So the directing, I gave it a 4 out of 5 as well. I really liked it. I mean, the scenes flowed really well. The direction was good. The editing was good. I was pretty impressed with what Henry Hathaway was able to accomplish here. He's a journeyman director. If you look at his filmography, you got Niagara, True Grit, How the West Was Won, Kiss of Death, and then this movie. It looks like he was really known for westerns, and I definitely want to check out some of his other westerns. The only other film I've seen from him was True Grit, and that was a long time ago, so I'll need to rewatch it. But I thought it was fine. Just some of the choices were a little strange, like the narration. Some of the cast wasn't great. But other than that, I had a great time with it. I think he did a really good job with the scene direction, the flow, going around Chicago. It fit very, very well. So I think he did really good, all things considered. All right, so now into cinematography and special effects. I give it a 3.5 out of 5. I thought it was good. I was debating on whether it was a 3.5 or a 4 out of 5, but I decided to go with a 3.5 just because the cinematography isn't that spectacular, and some of the effects are a little silly. Like my wife and I talked about, there's a scene when they're enlarging a photo to kind of prove when the arrest took place, to kind of prove the innocence of the guy who's accused. And I'm sorry, but it was so blurry already, and that's just not how photo enlarging works, especially if you don't have film. So that kind of took me out of it a little bit, took her out a bit too. And like I said, though, the camera work is just okay. Really what stands out is the acting in this movie. Mainly James Stewart. That's what stands out. So I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. All right, the music, same thing. It's just okay. I gave it a 3 out of 5. Nothing different, nothing spectacular, really. Really, the focus is the acting. That's the cream of the crop for this film. All right, so tallying that all up, that brings my Letterboxd score to a 3.7 out of 5, which I'm barely rounding to a 4 out of 5. And that makes it a 74% on Critic List. So would I recommend this movie? Yes, I would. I think it's an interesting film. I like the aspect we don't know for sure if the guy is guilty or not. I think that's interesting. Um, and I love James Stewart. He's always great. Pretty much every film I've seen him in, he's been really, really good. This is definitely not in the upper echelon of his career, like, It's a Wonderful Life and Vertigo and Rear Window, all those movies. This is definitely not up on that level, but he really does really well here and elevates it to a much higher level. And yeah, I think the overall it's a good film noir, and I think a lot of people will like it when they check it out. All right, those are my thoughts on Called Northside 777 from 1948, and that's today's film review.